This airport was built where airports are not supposed to exist, on a man-made island in the sea, above soft seabed that never fully stopped compressing. Kansai International Airport was one of the boldest infrastructure bets of the modern age, designed to free Osaka from noise limits, operate 24 hours a day, and become a new global gateway for Japan. It worked, but the island kept sinking. Engineers responded with jacked-up columns, raised seawalls, drainage pumps, groundwater barriers, and constant monitoring just to keep the system level, dry, and alive. This is not just the story of how Japan built an airport on water. It is the story of how it keeps rebuilding that decision every single year. Kansai International Airport begins with a sentence that sounds impossible. Build a major international airport in the sea. Keep it open 24 hours a day. Connect it to one of Japan's most important economic regions. And make it all work on an artificial island built over soft seabed. That is exactly what Japan did in Osaka Bay. The result was one of the most famous aviation megaprojects in the world. But the engineering challenge did not end when the airport opened. In many ways, that is when the real work began. Kansai Airport is often celebrated for being the world's first ocean airport. That phrase sounds elegant and futuristic. The engineering reality underneath it is much less romantic. The island sits on reclaimed land over layers that continue to compress. So while aircraft move quickly across the runways, the ground beneath them moves slowly downward. Officially and physically, this is an airport that has always needed active correction. Its location in Osaka Bay gave Japan something valuable. It moved round-the-clock air traffic away from dense urban neighborhoods. It created space for a major international hub in the Kansai region. And it connected Osaka, Kobe, and Kyoto to the world through a dedicated offshore gateway. The airport is linked back to the mainland by a bridge roughly 3.7 kilometers long. From the air, the island looks perfectly deliberate. From below, it looks like a permanent argument with geology. The airport scale helps explain the ambition. The first island covers about 510 hectares. The second island adds roughly another 545 hectares in planned total area. The runways measure 3,500 meters and 4,000 meters. The second runway, according to Japan's transport ministry, helped make Kansai a true 24-hour airport. That matters because night operations are not a minor feature here. They are part of the airport's economic logic. Passenger flights, cargo flows, and regional connectivity all depend on that around-the-clock capacity. But 24-hour operation on sinking ground demands unusual design choices. The airport was not built as if settlement could be avoided. It was built as if settlement had to be managed forever. That is why Terminal 1 is so important to the story. The terminal is about 1.7 kilometers long and supported by a massive field of columns. Kansai Airport says the first terminal building has 900 columns. Every one of those columns is part of an automatic monitoring system. Engineers track settlement continuously and decide where correction is needed. When differential settlement creates tilt, they do not demolish and rebuild. They jack the building back into alignment. The method is both simple in concept and extraordinary in execution. A column is lifted by hydraulic jacks. Steel plates are inserted. The column is locked at the corrected height. Then the process repeats where necessary. Kansai Airport says jacking up operations are still carried out every few years as a precaution. That single sentence tells you everything about the airport's true condition. It is operating. It is successful, and it still requires periodic physical releveling. The design anticipated this in other ways too. Raft foundations helped structures settle more uniformly. Reclaimed layers were compacted to reduce later compression. Soil volume and ballast were adjusted to balance structural loads. Even the basement of the main building created special settlement effects. Soil had to be removed to build it. Iron ore was added beneath the structure to compensate for the lighter weight. Even then, slight differences remained. Slight differences are all it takes for a giant terminal floor to drift out of level, so correction became part of the architecture. Kansai's history also includes proof that bold engineering sometimes works exactly when it is needed most. 4 months after opening, the airport endured the Kobe earthquake with only minor damage. NASA notes that it continued operating during the relief effort. That helped lock in Kansai's reputation as a serious piece of national infrastructure. Then expansion pushed the experiment further. Japan's transport ministry says a 4,000-meter-second runway was added in 2007. That expansion strengthened capacity and reinforced the airport's international competitiveness. It also deepened the logic of 24-hour operations. Cargo could grow. Overnight scheduling could expand. The airport could behave more like an always-on logistics machine. Kansai Airports now highlights those strengths openly. The airport's business profile describes it as an important international hub with 24-hour operations. It also emphasizes cargo modernization and specialized freight communities. So the airport was never just an architectural icon. It was built to be commercially useful every hour of the day. But utility does not cancel exposure. In 2018, Typhoon Jebi reminded everyone that the airport's greatest engineering triumph was also a continuing vulnerability. Reuters reported that a seawall at Kansai was breached during the storm. The runway flooded, and it took 17 days to fully restore operations. That single event changed the story from subsidence management to climate resilience as well. Kansai Airports responded by raising seawalls with added concrete. The company says those walls were elevated to withstand the highest tide recorded in Osaka Bay and waves expected once in 50 years. Just as importantly, it says the seawalls are periodically raised in response to ground subsidence. That phrase matters as much as the wall itself, because even the flood defense has to keep adapting to a sinking island. Water management became another moving target. As the island settled unevenly, some drainage pipes lost the slope they needed to drain naturally to sea. So Kansai Airports installed pumps to force the water out. The company says 37 pumps were installed at 10 locations. This is what makes Kansai so fascinating. Subsidence does not just threaten one dramatic point of failure. It quietly changes the assumptions behind every system. Floor levels, pipe gradients, seawall heights, groundwater behavior, storm protection, all of them have to be recalibrated. Even the rock seawall creates another challenge because it is highly permeable. During storm surges, seawater can push inward and raise groundwater under the island. Kansai Airport says the answer was cut-off walls reaching down to the non-permeable alluvial clay layer. About 11 kilometers of those barriers surround key passenger and runway areas. A watertight wall around the entire Phase 1 island was completed in 2006. Similar protection has been added to Phase 2. So how did Japan build an airport that is still sinking? First, by accepting that the island would move. Second, by designing systems that could be monitored, corrected, and reinforced instead of simply abandoned. Third, by treating operations and maintenance as part of the original concept, not a later patch. Kansai survives because it is not a frozen megaproject. It is a continuously adjusted machine built between geology, weather, and national necessity. And every successful landing, there is proof that some of the world's greatest engineering works are not the ones that conquered nature, but the ones that learned how to keep negotiating with it.